beautiful people. I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice, Volume 2, Chapter 10. Let's start now. More than once did Elizabeth in her ramble within the park unexpectedly meet Mr. Darcy. She felt all the presurances of the mischance that should bring him where no one else was brought, and to prevent it ever happening again, took care to inform him at first, and it was a favourite haunt of hers. How it could occur a second time, therefore, was very odd. Yet it did, and even a third. It seems like the wilful ill nature or a voluntary pretense for on these occasions it was not merely a few formal inquiries and an awkward pause and then away, but he actually thought it necessary to turn back and walk with her. He never said a great deal, nor did she give herself the trouble of talking or of listening much, but it struck her in the course of their third recounty. Wait, let me look up this word. Let me look up this word.
Rencontre.
Rencontre, that he was asking some odd, unconnected question about her pleasure in being at Henford and her love of some solitary walks and her opinions of Mr. and Mrs. Collins' happiness, and that in speaking of Rosen and her not perfectly understanding the house, he seemed to expect that whenever she went into Kent again, she would be staying there too. His words seemed to imply it. Could he have could he have Colonel Fitzwilliam in his thoughts? She supposed, if he meant anything, he must mean an allusion to what might arrive in the quarter. It distressed her a little, and she was quite glad to find herself at the gate in the pale opposite the parsonage. She was engaged one day as she walked in perusing Jane's last letter and dwelling on some passages which proved that Jane had not written in spirit when, instead of being again surprised by Mr. Darcy, she saw on looking up that Colonel Fitzwilliam was meeting her. Putting away the letter, immediately forcing a smile, she said, "I did not know before you ever walked this way." "I have been making the tour of the park," he replied, "as I generally do every year, and intended to close it with a call at the parsonage. Are you going much further?" "No, I should have turned in a moment." And accordingly she did turn, and she walked towards the parsonage together. "Do you certainly leave on Saturday?" she said. "Yes, if Darcy does not put it off again, but I am at his disposal. His arranges the business He arranges the business just as he pleases, and if not able to please himself in the engagement, he has at least great pleasure in the power of choice. I do not know anybody who seems more to enjoy the power of doing what he likes than Mr. Darcy. He likes to have his own way very well," replied Colonel Fitzwilliam, "but so we all do. It is only that he has better means of having it than many others, because he is rich and many others are poor. I speak feelingly, A younger son, must be enjoyed to self-denial and dependency. In my opinion, the younger son of an heir, e-
Earl.
Errol can know very little of either. Now, seriously, what have you ever known of self-denial and dependence? When have you been prevented by want of money from going everywhere you choose or procuring anything you had a fancy for? These are home questions, and perhaps I can say that I have experienced many hardship of that nature. But in matters of great weight, may suffer from the event I may suffer from the want of money. Younger sons cannot marry where they like, unless where they like women of fortune, which I think they very often do. One habit of expense make us too dependent, and there are not many in my rank of life who can afford to marry without some attention to money. Is this, thought Elizabeth, meant for me? And she colored at the idea, and but recovering herself, said in a lively tone, "And pray, what is the usual price of an what is the usual
Earl.
what is the usual price of an Arrow's younger son, unless the elder brother is very sickly, and I suppose you would not ask about £50,000. He answered her in the same style, and the subject dropped to interrupt a silence which might make him fancy her affected with what he had passed. She soon afterwards said, "I imagine your cousin brought you down with him chiefly for the sake of having somebody at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry to secure a lasting convenience of that kind, but perhaps his sister does as well for the present, and as she is under his sole care, he may do what he likes to do with her." "No," said Colonel Fitzwilliam, "that is an advantage which he must divide with me. I am joined with him in the guardianship of Miss Darcy." "Are you indeed? And pray what sort of gardeners do you make? Does your charge give you much trouble? Young ladies of her age are sometimes a little difficult to manage, and if she has the true Darcy spirits, she likes she may like to have her own way." As she spoke, she observed him looking at her earnestly, and the manner in which he immediately asked her why she supposed Miss Darcy likely to give him any uneasiness, convinced her that she had somehow or other got pretty near the truth. She directly replied, You need not to be frightened. I never heard any harm of hers, and I dare say she's one of the most uh, tractable creatures in the world. She is very great favour with some ladies of my acquaintance, Mrs. Hurt and Miss Burnley. I think I have heard you say that you know them. I know them a little. Their brother is a pleasant gentleman, like man. He's a great friend of Darcy's. Oh yes, said Elizabeth. Dearie. Is it Dearie?
Dryly.
Dryly. Mrs. Darcy is uncommonly kind to Mr. Bentley and takes a prodigious, oh my goodness,
Prodigious.
prodigious deal of care of him. Yes, I really believe Darcy does take care of him in those points where he most wants care, from something that he told me in our journey to Hither. I have reason to think Bentley very much indebted to him, and I ought to beg his pardon, for I have no right to suppose that Bentley was the person meant. It was all conjecture. What is it you mean? It is a coincidence, co- circumstances. Oh, circumstance. It is a circumstance which Darcy, of course, would not wish to be generally known, because if it were to get around to the lady's family, it would be an unpleasant thing to you may depend upon my not mention it, and remembering that I have not much reason for supposing it to be Bentley. What he told me was merely this, that he congratulated himself on having lately saved a friend from the inconveniences of a most imprudent marriage, but without mentioning names or any other particulars. And I always suspected it to be Bentley, from believing him the kind of young man too great into to the kind of young man to get into of a scrap is a scrap
Scrape.
scrape of that sort, and from knowing them to have been together the whole of last summer. Did Mr. Darcy give you his reason for this interference? I understand that there was some very strong objection against the lady, and what arts did he use to separate them? He did not talk to me of his own arts, said Fitzwilliam, smiling. He only told me what I have now told you. Elizabeth made no answer, and walked on, her heart swollen with indignation, and after watching her a little, Fitzwilliam asked her why she was so thoughtful. I'm thinking of what you have been telling me, said she. Your cousin's conduct does not suit my feelings. Why was he to be the judge? You have rather disposed to call his interference officious. I do not see what right Mr. Darcy had decided on the propensity. I think it's propensity. It's propensity. Let me look it up.
Propriety.
Propriety of his friend's inclination, or why upon his own judgment alone he was to determine and direct in what manner that his friend was to be happy. But she continued, recollecting herself, as we know none of the particulars. It is not fair to condemn him. It is not to be supposed that there were much affection in the case. That is not an unnatural summary, said Fitzwilliam. It is lessening the honor of my cousin's triumphants very sadly. This was spoken jastily. Jastily?
Jestingly.
Justinly. This was spoken justinly. But it appeared to her so just a picture of Mr. Darcy that she would have not trusted herself with an answer, and therefore abruptly changing the conversation talk on in different manners till they reached the parsonage. There, shut into her own room as soon as their visitor left them, she could think without interrupting all that she had heard. It was not to be supposed that any other people could be meant than those with whom she was connected. They could not exist in the world two men over whom Mr. Darcy could have such boundless influence. That he had been connected in the measures taken to separate Mr. Bingley and Jane. She had never doubted, but she had always attributed to Miss Bentley the principal design and arrangement of them. If he is if his own vent, vanity Vanity. Oh, if his own vanity, however, did not mislead him, he was the cause. His pride and caprice were the cause of all this that Jane had suffered and still continued to suffer. He had returned for a while every hope of happiness for the most affectionate, generous heart in the world, and no one could say how lasting an evil he might have inflicted. There were some very strong objections against the lady, where Colonel Fitzwilliam's words, and these strong objections probably were her having one uncle who was a country attorney and another who was in business in London. To Jane herself, she exclaimed, there could be no possibility of objection. All loveliness and goodness she is. Her understanding excellent, her mind improved, and her manner captivating. Neither could anything be urged against my father, who, though with some oh my goodness, let me look up this word. Uh, Preliminaries. Preliminaries.
Peculiarities. Peculiarities.
Peculiar.
Peculiarities. Peculiarities.
Peculiarities. His abilities, which Mr. Darcy himself need not disdain, and respectability, which he would probably never reach. When she thought of her mother, indeed, her confidence gave away a little, and she would not allow that any objection there had material weight with Mr. Darcy, whom pride, she was convinced, would receive a deeper wound from the want of importance in his friends' connections than from their want of sense. And she was quite decided at last that he had been partially governed by his worst kind of pride and partly by the wish of retaining Mr. Bentley for his sister. The oh my goodness, I'm looking at the agitation is agitation
Agitation.
agitation and tears which the subject occasion brought on a headache, and it grew so much worse than the evening that worse towards the evening that added to her unwillingness to see Mr. Darcy, it determined her not to attend her cousins he it determined her not to attend her cousin to Rose's while they were engaged to drink tea. Mrs. Collins, seeing that she was really unwell, did not press her to go, and as much as possible prevented her husband from pressing her. But Mr. Collins could not conceal his prehension of Lady Catherine's being rather displeased by her staying at home. Okay, I'm done reading it. I'm so proud of myself. Yeah, and I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. Yep. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.